Rare NXT cards that don't pop up very often? Zhan, you're crazy. Topps makes NXT cards. They print them to the moon. We'll stick around and find out some facts about a little known set, kind of a variation of some NXT cards that came out in 2016. What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. I've got Paul from the Wrestling Card Price Guide back on the Wrestling with Cards YouTube channel today. Today we're going to talk about some NXT cards from 2016 that some of you may not know a lot about. As far as the cards, that's all I'm going to say until we get into the video. Paul and Chuckster, as you could probably tell from a lot of my videos, they are my go-to guys for rare, obscure, hard-to-find sets. And when they let me know, hey, we've got new sets, or hey, we found this, I've got to get them on the channel to discuss them. Because the purpose of this channel is not only provide a free source of entertainment, but to also educate and get as much information about wrestling cards, correct information, or to the best of our knowledge, out there to the world. Continue growing the wrestling card collector base, as well as the community around it. But as always, I gotta get my plugs in. So here are a few ways that you can help show your support for my content if you're enjoying what I'm doing for you. The first thing you can do, it's easy, it's free, it takes no time, you're already here, hit the subscribe button. Give me a like if you're enjoying the video so far, or if you enjoy a lot of my past videos, just like all my videos, it helps. Tell somebody about the channel. If you know somebody that collects wrestling cards, wrestling figures, sports cards, if they're in a hobby of some form and you think that my content would benefit them, tell them about the channel, tell them about the podcast. Speaking of podcasts, Wrestling with Cards, the podcast, my solo podcast, different than these videos. Some of the topics may be similar, but you're going to want to check that out as well as this channel. And of course, the Worlds Collide podcast. Myself, Tony Vella from WrestlingTradingCards.com, talking all things wrestling cards. One thing I really like about the Worlds Collide podcast is bouncing ideas off of each other. If I'm just doing this, you're getting only my take generally, unless I throw in some other people's opinions periodically. But on the Worlds Collide podcast, you've got Tony, you've got me, and a lot of times we have guests and do roundtable episodes, so you're getting 4 to 5 different opinions about certain topics. Both the Wrestling with Cards podcast and the Worlds Collide podcast are both available on all popular podcast platforms, no matter where you're listening. So just search us and subscribe so that way you never miss an episode. If you would like to help show your support to my content, the podcast, the videos, monetarily, because there are costs that go into doing these, check out links below to the Wrestling with Cards Patreon page, where for as little as $1, which you can't buy much for $1 nowadays, $1 a month can help show your support to my content. You get your name in the credits of all of these videos. And there are other tiers that you can pay more and get more. Again, all of that money gets funneled back into the content, whether it's equipment I need to buy, whether it's hosting, editing software, or maybe just taking all that money and putting it in a box and doing a box break for Patreon members only. You also get exclusive video, content, etc. Also check the links to my eBay store. Lots of stuff in there for sale, lots of cheap stuff, lots of higher end stuff, and everything in between. You never know what I'm going to be posting for sale. You may see some of this stuff behind me available for sale sometime. And there's also links to my social platforms if you would like to check me out on whatever social platform you're on. Chances are I'm there. And of course, links to buy me a coffee below as well. Gotta stay caffeinated to keep doing these videos. But let's jump into the conversation with Paul and these 2016 NXT cards. We've got Paul back on the show once again. I think we always have you or Chuckster on. I think I say this every time. Anytime we're going to talk about a set that's maybe not in the forefront of most people within the wrestling card community's vision. So first off, Paul, welcome. And then
thanks for having me, as always.
Yep. Kick us off with what you want to talk about today, because I think it's interesting.
Today we're going to talk about NXT cards, specifically the Topps, what they did with NXT over the years. And this segment is dealing with that, but it's part of our series, like you just mentioned, about the rarer, harder to find stuff. We talked before about the 95 Paninis. I consider that to be one of the hardest sets to come by. Rax Roast Beef, obviously, from the late 70s is another one. There's early Japanese stuff. Obviously, a lot of the vintage is hard to come by. But we don't often talk about modern stuff in the last 5 years as being rare or hard to come by. But there is, in fact, a set, and it's the Topps 2016, and that's where this conversation is leading to. That set only came out online in small boxes of 5 cards each, and it had a 50-card base set and a 25-card auto set. So it took quite a few of those boxes, and at the time they were 50 or 60 bucks. So you would have been into hundreds of $100 to maybe make a base set.
Yeah.
And then on the secondary market, they just never turned up. I was aware of them, and at the time was always Hawkeye looking for them. but never found them. And as the years went on and the hobby matured and we got into other things, I was always quick to mention, hey guys, 2016 tops. It never comes up, but it's an important set. So I'll go back a bit and talk about specifically, and jump in anytime, about NXT. We know that NXT sort of grew out of what was FCW.
Right.
Basically started, we know we have FCW cards in 2012. I think 2013 was a transition year where they went from FCW and they started the Full Sail stuff. And we'll talk about 2013. We'll go back to that in a moment. But the first sort of subset of NXT cards come out in flagship 2014. That's 2014 tops. And also those same cards are produced again in the Chrome version of that set.
Right.
And they were 20 cards, and that included the first time we would see Charlotte and Paige and Sasha and about obviously 17 others. But the interesting thing is in our hobby, we talk about rookie cards, and it's a whole killer world we try to avoid. So we seem to have a sharper consensus on what we call first appearance cards. We can agree a little more easily, that the 70s Andre would be his first appearance versus the purported 80s rookie, or my Triple H Neenies are the first appearance to whatever someone might consider the Triple H rookie to be. But as you know, even though that first subset appeared in 2014, in 2013, the Slam Attacks out of the UK had 4 cards. They had a Charlotte, a Paige, a Rusev, and a Big E, all with the NXT logo, all today considered their rookie. And when I say rookie, I mean first appearance. So I use the term interchangeably. So when I start throwing off names, I'm referring to what we believe to be the first time we see this performer on a card. That's very interesting to me, Zhan, because Slam Attacks usually comes out later in the year. And yet the cards are printed 2013. People consider the Charlotte, and always have considered that one to be the rookie.
Right.
But they didn't start doing the NXT shows until, I think there was a couple of cards in the summer, but then they got into the regular sort of schedule of Full Sail and getting the program moving in October of 2013. So it's interesting to me that the Slam Attacks, in actual fact, made cards of those 4. But they're there. I mean, we see them. They're dated as such. But that's an interesting thing that somehow, what I'm getting at, I guess, is that I'm not so sure they came out first. I think they may have been pre-printed somehow, but they are what they are. Those 4 sort of stand as the rookie because that's the first time we see NXT, and it's the only time we see them in 2013. Then forward to 2015, that's where we actually get the Alexa Bliss rookie.
Yeah.
And in the set, I'm going to be talking the most about the 2016s. A lot of people think that that's the rookie, and I just found out recently, once I got my 2016s, that no. In actual fact, there's a 10-card inset search again in the flagship and Chrome of Alexa Bliss in 2015.
And correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one. There's paper and there's Chrome, and it says NXT first on it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I have the 2000.
It's got her like in the blue outfit and
yeah,
yellow
cheerleader
border.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the card that everybody seems to go after first.
Right, and that is her rookie. That's the first one that I can find. So it's interesting because we have those, and then you start getting into heritage sets. There's a set called Called Up, a subset of NXT's then, and then they get fairly regular. The 28 card set in the 2016 flagship, but that leads to this sort of elusive set, which Topps at the time purported to be the first dedicated set. So not a subset, part of a larger flagship or a heritage or what have you, Road to WrestleMania, but its own thing. So I remember at the time, see, I wouldn't have bought boxes. I would have been the guy waiting on the secondary market for someone to put together the base set, but it never happened. So when these things first started hitting, I didn't pay much attention to them, and then all of a sudden they were gone. We never saw them again. Now I'm going to give you some information and stuff.
Before you do that, now was this a print to order, kind of like the living set, or was this?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was on demand. It's kind of like a Summer of Cena kind of deal, where they're made by Topps, they're put out set numbers, and then out they go, and they're only available online. And that's what they were. But as I mentioned off the top, these things came in small boxes called mini boxes. They just had NXT on them, 2016, and there was 5 cards in each box.
You said they're around $50, right?
From what I remember. Now, in subsequently talking to collectors that have put together the set, I just recently got the set, and I'm aware of another guy that did it, and he's the guy that's provided me a lot of this information that I'm going to sort of give you the breakdown. And what I'll do is we'll post a link at the bottom of this to where you can see the set on YouTube, and you have a couple of images that you'll intersperse.
Right.
But just to give the audience an idea of the set. So it was only 5 per, and I remember them being $49.99. Now I've heard that subsequently Topps was blowing them out a year or two later at $15 to $20, although I never saw them that low. And I know today if I want to buy a box, it's like 79 bucks, just for those 5 cards. So to get the 50 base cards, never mind the autos, one does the math and you figure you have to buy several hundred boxes to even get close.
Yeah, and can you, like, I'm just thinking, it just come to my head, like, you've seen how people are complaining about AEW box prices where you're not guaranteed anything. Here you're paying literally $10 a card for 5 cards and you're not guaranteed anything. So
right, because of NXT and it didn't have all the advanced buzz, the AEW is a whole other conversation that'll be had in the ensuing weeks about what we people in the secondary market has been experiencing with that set. But back to NXT, it was interesting because it was the first sort of dedicated set, but it sort of flew under the radar because there were still the subset NXT stuff, including a 28 card set in 2016 flagship. So if you would have bought Top 2016, you'd have gotten the 28 card NXTs, and you were thought that was the entry for the year, and not realize that a whole 50 card base set had come out earlier in the year, with 25 autographs as well. Right now, I'm going to just give you some background information on this set. And first of all, I got to give credit to a gentleman by the name of Zhan. I hope I'm saying that right. He's one of the wonderful collectors out there that spends time on Wrestling Card Price Guide. So he's been kind enough to send me information on it. And what he says to me is that there were 5 cards per box, 3 base, 1 numbered base parallel, and 1 numbered autograph to 99.50, 25, 10, or 1. He says that in some cases, some boxes contain 2 base cards, 1 numbered base parallel, and 2 autographs. So that would have been a bonus box if you happened to catch one of those. He said he opened over 200 mini boxes, and he would approximate that the super boxes occurred 1 in every 10. There was 50 base cards, parallels numbered to 50 bronze, 25 silver, 10 gold, and 1 reds. And there was 24 autograph cards with 1 variation for Elias Sampson, made one called the Drifter. I've never actually seen that card, but that's part of that set as well. So, and he makes a point of mentioning that while checking on eBay over the last 5 years, he's never seen an Alexa autograph that isn't numbered at least to 25. And if you go to NXT autographs now, the most expensive ones on eBay are all from the 2016 set because those autographs are so rare. But I wanted to sort of bring this to your attention and do this quick little segment on just the base sets because I'm the guy that's sort of been collecting all along. And at the time when they came out, I was aware of them, then they went, and I thought, okay, I'll go back and I'll fill that in. And it didn't happen until just a few months ago. So in my mind, this is one of these sort of elite base sets, if you will, just because they're so few and far between. It's not like Rax Roast Beef where you never see the cards, or Paninis where you very certainly, like, the cards are out there, but to get the base set, like the Paninis to get the base set or to get all the Raxes, the trick is getting them all in one go. So for the completists out there, the set collectors, that's one on your list for sure.
Well, even just looking for these, you just don't, like, they're out there, like you said, but you don't see them all the time like you do a lot of the other sets. And that's why I wondered if it was an on-demand thing, which you said you didn't think it was. So why do you think that they're just not popping up?
Maybe a finite number of them, maybe there just weren't that many of them made. If you try and find the boxes now, they're few and far between. So whoever bought them opened them, but the sets just didn't make it to the secondary market. Like the Alexas now are normally in the $1,500 range when they hit. And I mistakenly thought that the Alexa card in that set was the rookie. But that's what, before this segment, I wanted to go and check everything. But, just to give you an idea, because we talk about first appearance cards and we talk about the 2002 Royal Rumble, the Fleer set with the class of 4, but how's this for a first appearance class? In that set, we've got Aaliyah, Akam, Andrade, the first WWE appearance of Austin Aries, because he was in TNT stuff, Baron Corbin, Billy Kay, Blake, Dash Wilder, Johnny Gargano, Liv Morgan, Neville, Peyton Royce, the first WWE appearance of Shinsuke. He obviously was in earlier Japanese cards, but that's his first appearance here. Ciampa, Ty Dillinger, Nia Jax, Dana Brooks, and Chad Gable. So those are your rookies from that set. And that set also included Alexa, Asuka, Roman, Seth, Big E, Bray, Charlotte, Sammy, Finn, Sasha, Bailey, and Becky, not rookies because they had cards in that earlier 2014. Right. But just because these sort of came out and were seated the way they were, only 5 cards per box, and because they were only available on demand online from Topps at the time, that's why they sit today, a mere only 5 years later, as being quite a collectible thing, hard to get.
You think it's more of a like rarity scarcity thing that is why they go for more money? Because it's not often in wrestling. Like I've always been preaching for a while, just because it's not like, if you have a card and it's not a rookie card, that doesn't mean that it's not potentially worth more than the rookie card. And here we have an example of some of these that are probably worth more than cards they had previously. Do you think that's why? Because they're not out there?
Well, it doesn't normally go that way, right?
Right.
Consider the Paninis, where when there's only one complete set known, it's difficult to make a market around. The same thing happens with the Rax roast beef. I don't have a set, and I've been looking since I found out.
Yeah, you just don't see those, period.
And apparently there was 1,000 of them made, right? Now, I wonder if there was 1,000 of them made. Same with the Paninis. We have no idea, but how did one almost complete set appear in South Africa? How did my complete set turn up in New Zealand when they were printed in Italy? And I remember seeing them loosely, sporadic over the years, but never a complete set. Same with these NXTs. Like, I'll just quickly show you a quick page here. This is what they look like, and they're always, you can identify them just by this little
that border, right?
That border turns up on the 50. That's what these all look like, and they're the only ones with this design. It could be a scarcity thing then, based on the fact that there weren't that many, but they're out there. Just getting the set is difficult, because you would have, if you were a guy like me that tries to put this stuff together, it was just difficult to do then, and difficult to do now. I was quite surprised, actually, when someone approached me and says, I have a complete set. I'm like, no, really? Of the 2016s, the online ones? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'll take them.
Yeah, one thing too, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's some NXT cards also in 2016 that have a very similar design to these. And that's what's really hard for people to distinguish, because the borders are so similar, but the images, I believe, are different. In fact,
if you look at these, this is the same set. It's a little bit different than what I showed you. It's the same girder, but it's a sort of wider girder pattern, but it's not the ones you're talking about. The ones in the flagship set are different yet. So it's important to distinguish the ones that came within flagship, and I think it was 2017 or 18, they got their own full scale release. And we've had one per year since. And that's a curious thing. I don't know in the Panini era if that's going to be a thing like Topps did, if they're going to do dedicated women's sets and dedicated. It seems like they're going to be more doing their own brand things, like but it makes stuff like this collectible just because of the cast of characters I've just named. Like, there's a lot of names there: Liv Morgan, Mount Neville, all these kinds of characters that this is the first time that you're seeing them on card, and you probably haven't seen them because these cards are quite rare.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the demand is there for even these second tier stars. Of course, Alexa or Roman or Charlotte, we've talked about her. They're gonna, like, have a demand that's way higher than these others. But the fact that you just can't find these is what I think is cool.
And I think when the autos come up, they get the most money for NXTs, just because, again, they're rarer, and they're like, again, I've seen the Alexa a few times being listed as a rookie card, and I thought, oh wow, right? And then when I did the research for this show, I went back and I just went through every card in the book to see, okay, what was in this 2014? Was there anything different in the Chrome? And then the Slam Attacks thing is weird to me, because that's
time, very strange after you laid out the timeline.
Well, yeah, specifically with the timeline. Plus, that as we've been going along, very loosely as the sets have been coming out, I've been sort of archiving them, recording them for the Price Guide site. And back then, I wasn't doing Slam Attacks. I didn't get into the British Slam Attacks until just last year. Chuck and I went back and did a lot of work on getting them all sorted out. And I don't even think that Tony was doing. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think he was doing Slam Attacks either. Point I'm getting to is that I wouldn't have been aware of the timing of it. I wouldn't have been aware that, hey, something from Slam Attacks hits, got to get it on the site like I would something now, and be able to speak more intelligently about where it happened in the timing. But the fact that Charlotte, Paige, Rusev, and Big E are the only 4 in that Slam Attacks, and they're specifically labeled with an NXT emblem, but the production date is 2013 is interesting to me. I'd like to know maybe if any of our collectors from the UK can remember specifically, did that specific set come out late, like maybe first quarter 2014, something like that, and they just were pre-printed with 2013? Because it seems odd to me just based on the timing, because I don't even think there was much of an NXT on a regular basis where the fans were consuming it until the fall of 2013. That's why the timing is weird to me.
Right. Yeah,
But
that's weird.
we in the hobby have adopted those slam attacks as the rookies for Paige and Charlotte. So
That brings up something that's kind of related to this. I actually have a couple of questions that are slightly related to this, but they just popped into my head as we were talking about it. Are you familiar with Bowman baseball and how that works?
no.
Okay.
No, I never see. Being up here in Canada, hockey I have a peripheral idea of, and I know some of the other things that like UFC and soccer, but baseball is something that I never got into. So
okay, well, I'll break it down for you, and maybe they have something similar to hockey. I don't do hockey, so Bowman baseball is a Bowman first is considered the first person's card. Call it a rookie card or whatever, but it's the first card, and it's a prospect card, but it actually says Bowman first. And then they'll have, if they still haven't made it to the major leagues yet, then maybe come out in the next year in another Bowman set, but it'll say Bowman prospect. I've heard a lot of people within wrestling that also have kind of dabbled with sports. They view these NXT cards. We can use these that we're talking about.
2016.
Yeah, we can use those as the first. A lot of people kind of put those and equate them to Bowman first, and then maybe like the call-up card would be like the Bowman prospect, and then the flagship rookie being the official rookie. Do you see a correlation there now that I've laid that out? I mean, and like they're all still collectible.
Of course, and this is a conversation that never ends. I don't know like who wins by stamping their sort of foot in the ground by saying this is right or wrong, because the reality is that first appearance is something that we can generally agree upon. Now, after the fact, if we want to start labeling things prospect and things like that for the benefit of the hobby or for the benefit of selling the product, I don't have a problem with any of that. Does it parallel this? In a way it does, now that you lay it out.
Yeah.
Because you could look at it that way, that the Alexa Bliss rookie is the 2014, because that one is the first appearance and it's clear it's in a major release, but then this could be like a prospect set that came out afterwards because it's the first set. And Topps did advertise it as being the first NXT set at the time.
Interesting. And not, it's weird that they would do the first set a couple of years after they're already doing subsets.
Well, not a couple of years. No, you're right. Yeah, because it was 2014 and 2015. That's right. And then the first dedicated NXT set was this one. Again, with a lot of people that came in, I guess, a little later than your first group of people. But yeah.
That's very interesting
because it is because they've kind of fallen through the cracks. There's no other sets like this. It's not like you can't go and find anything else. You can even find a set of Impel if you look hard enough. But the reality is that these ones are hard to come by as a set. You find the autos, you find the individual pieces, but the only time I've ever seen them was once a few weeks ago when I bought them.
Interesting. So my last question that I have that kind of goes back to this. Actually, two. I forgot. They both have to do with Panini. Both have to do with first and rookie cards. As we're moving into the Panini era, we've already seen Upper Deck basically say, we're not putting rookie cards, we're not putting first because it's too hard to distinguish. Panini has always been, even with UFC, they've been pretty heavy on that rookie card badge. If you were to guess, what do you think they're going to do with WWE products as far as the rookie card badge?
Probably keep doing what they've been doing. This is their world now. Like it doesn't bother me, but I recall like Asuka had one Heritage rookie card and then another one that was labeled rookie card, and then, that just nullifies the whole thing for me. But
the problem with that is that I believe they were two different years released.
Yeah.
Because Panini might do 50 different rookie cards, but that might be in 50 totally different sets in the exact same calendar year, which would be the rookie. So that's, I think that's acceptable. But I mean, remember the AJ Styles cards that have the rookie card? I mean, come on, he's been around forever.
Exactly. And is that going to change? again, these kinds of things, like even this talk going back to AEW, some people upset about, the guys that are breaking and, oh, if I break, I'm going to be upside down on this box. So do I need to keep the thing sealed like you're doing, a lot of other people are doing? And, as I'm quickly doing the math going, shit, a lot of people are opening their boxes. So there's a lot of product that's kicking around out there. We haven't gotten to retail yet. What I'm getting to is a lot of people getting freaked out or upset. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing this for? Why are we here? Why am I talking to you right now?
Right.
We do this for fun, right? Yep. So I never get worked up about any of this stuff. Rookie card, not rookie card, rock sticker, rock card, Panini first, Panini last, it's going to cost money. It's going to not, like, look, when Undisputed came around in 2015, all of a sudden, boom, everything cost a lot more.
Right.
We were entering a new tier of wrestling, and we got used to it. And just when we thought that we were done with that, here comes Transcendent. That really jacks up. Now we're paying like, jewelry kind of prices on this stuff. So there was warnings in advance about AEW and where things were going to go, right? I like these ones, like these little small sets that just come out, go into the marketplace, disappear, and then a few weeks later, we're like, hey, what about those?
Where's that go? Yeah, and then there's an instant demand.
AEWs, they're going to be around for quite a bit. And as soon as the next set comes out, all that stuff that's sitting is going to come down in price. And seen it all before. It's simple economics. But I like these things. I like the Rax roast beef. I like the set like this. I really like the paninis, just because why aren't there more of them? There should be. Like that Rax roast beef. They say they made 1,000 of them. I would imagine if 1,000 were printed and people had them, I don't think 995 of them got thrown on the floor that night. And everyone took the chip thing. I believe there was less of them made than, I'll tell you honestly, I'm working on an indie set right now for the guys up here. And the more sets you make, the cheaper it is. I'm like, no. We're only going to make this number.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
When they're gone, because then when series 2 comes out, it makes these, of which there aren't any anymore, and that's what it is.
Well, and it's like you said, it creates the demand for the second one if you knew the first one was such a low print.
Exactly.
It's just, supply and demand.
Exactly. Like I believe my Panini 95s were test prints. I don't think, there's enough single cards out there that they floated around over the years, but I don't think they went into wide release at all. Certainly, I don't think there was 1,000 Rax roast beef cards. We know that there wasn't a lot of these base sets because there must have been a limited number of these boxes that Topps puts out. Or put out at the time. So these are the things that for me are interesting because, me being, all of our lanes, I'm sort of in a wider lane at a macro level, looking at everything as it's happening along and saying, well, here's a few things that are neat to the guys that are interested in, the wrestling historians and the guys that like to sort of cover the breadth of it all to say, hey, here's something that we might not have figured along the way. And this is something from 2016. And I seem to be the only one that's sort of trumpeting it. But I want the hobby to be clear that if you find these cards, get them.
Yeah, and when you look at it at the surface, it doesn't make sense. Like you're like, oh yeah, I know those 2016 NXT cards. Chances are you don't, because like there's that subset.
They're not the cards you think.
Right.
Yeah, you think you're thinking of the 28 cards that came in Topps 2016, and then the bunch that came in Then Now Forever, and that was our world for that period of time where we had a Topps Now, and then a Then Now Forever where we'd have something like 200 some odd sets, and the NXT subset would be part of that 200, and it would come out twice a year. So we had a lot of cards. But these were specifically online only, and it was the first dedicated set that came out in 2016, although not the rookie of Alexa like we might have hoped for, or Sasha or Charlotte. Still a lot of good cards, and definitely the autographs are in high demand if you can find them.
Well, great conversation today. Thanks for shining the light on that. You talked about not getting worked up about things like this is fun, bantering back and forth, having these discussions, but I'm with you. Like, I love talking about these things. I'm talking about, headlines, news, whatever, but I'm with you. I don't get bent out of shape about it. I just try to have fun and make good, good decisions.
People getting upset about things in the hobby. And, I have to remind them why we're doing it in the first place, right? We're all doing this because we're all wrestling fans. We really enjoy the collectability of these cards, and we've created a nice little community where we all hang out and enjoy each other, chatting with each other. So, there's always another set. There's always another tomorrow. And that's the thing about these rare ones too. For people that like the chase, guys that like to go after the WCW autographs or the rare stuff, the harder to find stuff. Put these on your list because it's an interesting thing to try and put together because they are scarce.
Well, Paul, thanks for your time today. Thanks for your interesting case study. Let everybody know where they can find you and talk about your website really quick. I actually have recommended 2 people to your website just this week that messaged me and said, hey, what do you think a ballpark of a price is for this card? And I said, Wrestling Card Price Guide's where you want to go for that, because that's exactly what it is. It's ballpark.
Ballpark. Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that. People come. There's images, there's videos, there's a lot of that stuff, a lot of quick ways that you can see what a set looks like. The Wrestling Card Price Guide. I'm on Twitter at card_guide. They're every day posting something or the other. That's it. Yeah. So Topps 2016, the first set. Keep an eye out.
Guys, we'll have links in the show notes to Paul's website. We'll have his information on Twitter available. And of course, we will have the video flip through of these 2016 cards. Paul, thank you again for your time. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thanks to Paul once again from the Wrestling Card Price Guide for coming on the show today and for always being a wealth of knowledge and a pillar within the wrestling card hobby. I'm very appreciative for the fact that he is not only willing to do the work on the front end and back end to get these sets put together, but to also come on here and talk about it and get the information out there to the wrestling card community. If it wasn't for Paul, Chuckster, Tony, and a few others out there, we wouldn't have the information about some of these sets and cards that we do. So anytime I hear new sets and new information and something's kind of hard to find, I've got to get people on here to talk about it, and we want you to talk about it. What did you think about today's video? Do you have some of these NXT cards? Maybe you think you do and you just have some stuff from the flagship. They're very hard to tell, as we discussed. And don't forget to check out the Wrestling Card Price Guide and follow Paul on Twitter. Links in the show notes for that stuff. And if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe. It's easy, it's free, you're already here. Just hit the button, like, and tell somebody about the show. We got to grow the community, grow the channel. And until next time, click the videos on the screen for more great wrestling card content. We'll see you there.